welcome back. We're just gonna wait a minute for our guest to come on. There we
Hey,
go.
how's it
Hey,
going?
Brandex, how are you?
Good, good. I hope you're doing well.
So, I know that we've spoken on here before, but it's been a little while. So, can you kind of like tell everybody a little bit about yourself before you start talking, just so people who, if they haven't seen you, can know like a little bit about you first?
Yeah, so my name is Brandex. Legal name is Brandon, if you must know. And Brandex stands for exhortation from Brandon. And what it means, the word exhortation means to draw out from someone what's already in them. And that's one of the most important things to do because in today's society, people have gossip, people have name calls, people got all this stuff to say. And I was actually just talking on a live video about this, that you don't really hear people edify each other. You don't hear a man call another man a champion unless they win a championship. So I deal with a lot of speaking into men's identity, calling them a champion, a warrior, savage, speaking into women's identity, letting them know they're worthy of love, worthy of self-love. And I am a fitness coach. I'm a mindset coach. I'm a personal trainer. I do health coaching, so I help people do detoxing. I go through all the above. I'm usually always in a tank top or in a tuxedo. There's no in between.
Same.
According to Instagram, I have multiple wives, but I did a photo shoot with different wives, but I'm not married 6 times. Just disclaimer, when you go through my page, he's like, you got married a lot during the pandemic.
How many times has been married?
6 times in the last 2 weeks, but
okay. All right. More than the average man will ever.
No, King Solomon status. No. So overall, the main objective of my page is when you come into my page or you meet me as a person, that you feel better about yourself than you ever did. And the reason is because for a long period of my life, not until my late 20s, I turned 30 in January, so it's coming up.
I can't even,
3-0.
I feel like you look younger than me and I'm 22.
Good. That's all the internal work. It's all, and staying healthy, good skincare, and a good, like, making sure you're taking care of your soul, because that's one of the key things. And that's actually what I want to talk to you guys about, is just doing that work necessary. And I make sure that someone's ready for a transformation. I realize one of the most difficult things to do is try to force somebody to change, but I create content, I speak to the person who's ready to listen. And it's really uncomfortable to follow my page if you're not ready to change your life. Like, it's gonna make you're gonna be like, this freaking guy and his motivation, and it's just gonna bother you, and you're gonna unfollow me. So I make sure that it's like that, because I feel like social media is a microphone in the middle of a crowd, and you pick it up every time you post something, your stories, whatever it is, and you're saying, hey, listen to me. So every time you have that microphone, you better be saying something that's going to speak into people's lives. If not, why are you speaking? Like, people, yeah, you took a selfie, that's cute, but what did it do for people? You know, and I also do business online. I have a whole supplement shop, over 90 plus products in over 50 countries it's available. And when you see content, it is marketed towards that, but I also believe in it. So I also let people know, like, hey, you need this. So that's why I promote it. And I feel like on social media, it's funny, everybody's called an influencer, but where are they influencing you, and who is the influencer? Because sometimes they're just mimicking people from other people, and then the people at the top they have managers, so they're not even creating the content for themselves. Like the celebrities that people follow and the stuff they put, a lot of times it's not their original content because they're on contract, so they gotta be really limited. Even their political views, and people don't realize that. There's a lot of stuff that you think, oh, they're choosing this. Celebrities can't even pick what color their hair is without getting it approved. So a lot of stuff that's being put out there, I love that I've been able to use my platform and just be raw. And it comes from a lot of trauma. It comes from a lot of, I want to be Brandex when I grow up. Oh, I was like, thank you. That's the goal. That is actually the goal. The goal is to be a role model, that people look at my life and they're like, dang, like this guy, physique is on point, but the brain is on point. It's not like physique is on point and he has a million women. No, I'm practicing purity. I practice abstinence. I'm going on over a year and 6 months of abstinence, a year and 8 months, January 2019, I decided that, and sobriety. And I've just chosen it. And I realized that we lack this in influence. And then people are like, oh, it's because I am a Christian, but I don't try to like shove the Bible down people's throats. I choose to live the Bible, shove the Bible down my throat so that I'm not the one making stupid decisions. So later people are like, oh, you see, Christians are hypocrites, because that's the problem. A lot of times as Christians, we hit people with the Bible verse. We're hitting people more than we're hitting ourselves with the word. So I like to focus on the word, my relationship with God. I spend more time with God than I do spend time trying to push God on people. And then I realized, I'm like, Jesus walked around and he was just chilling. Like, he was just like, yo, why are you worrying? Worry doesn't add a moment to your life. Like, people would have thought Jesus was a hippie. He had long hair. He's just walking around. He's just coasting. But he was powerful. Why? Because he knew his identity. And he wasn't so worried about that. And that's one of my things. Like, people can have different stigmas of who I am and not believe a word I say. But I have to believe my word. I have to believe who I am. And I think that's one of the most important things about my platform is integrity. And what I'm telling you, I really believe. Like, even when I offer something from my supplement shop, I only take products from this shop. So when I offer it to you, it's not because I just got a gig to do that. Anybody that I work with, like this, they gave me a free hat. I wear the hat. If I didn't wear the hat, I wouldn't promote the hat, because I'd be like, the hat sucks. Why am I going to tell my followers? But I wear it all the time. And I'm like, yo, your hat's pretty dope. So that's how it is. It's the integrity. And that's what's missing in role models. A role model is someone who lives by their words. People try to be a role model by just telling you to do something, but they're not following it. And whatever I do feel that I'm saying and I'm not doing, like certain times I feel conviction. Being a health coach, and food is one of my biggest struggles, vulnerability. I love food.
You and me both, pal.
I love food. And I let my clients know. I was like, look, I'm doing a 30-day detox because I straight up love food. And during this pandemic, I loved it a little too much and I felt bloated. But it's being vulnerable, and role models have to be vulnerable. And one thing I let people know is, like, I battled many different ventures of life. I battled many different struggles. I battled issues within nurture, within trauma, within sexuality, within so many different things. And I had to sit back, and I just put up a quote in Reels on my Instagram, and I said, you are not a product of your past, you're a product of what you think about. So when you look back at your past and you're like, this was foolish, you're no longer your past. Because in your past, you thought it was wise. In your past, you thought this is the thing to do, you know? But when you look at yourself and you're like, that's not who I am, then it's no longer who you are. And I feel like in society, there's not enough people talking about these things, and too many people holding on to identities from before. If you guys would have seen some of the names I had as my name on Instagram, you'd be like, what? That was you? And the same way I could change that name, I could change my identity. Straight up. I could change it just by typing a couple things. I could change my life by changing a couple things. And that's what people don't realize. And the fact that so many people are not dealing with themselves, doing the homework of self, that is what helps me with the problem solving. That's what I call myself. I'm a problem solver, a professional problem solver. A health coach, you have a problem with your health, I'm going to help you solve it through a holistic approach. I'm not a doctor, so do not say he's a doctor. I'm not FDA approved. I am a health coach. That's what I am. But it's like, I'm certified through the country, and I just let people know, like, look, you got this problem, I'm going to help you solve it. But the same thing with the mindset. I have low self-esteem. I don't want to get out of bed. Or I'm in the middle of my weight loss journey and I don't want to take care of myself. What conversation were you listening to? What video were you watching? What created an insecurity within you that now you don't want to do that? Who was speaking at the dinner table when you visit your family that you now came back and you don't want to take care of your body? Like, we don't realize there are so many hidden daggers that come in. And then that happens in self-worth. And one thing that I've been working on is everything. I've always wanted to help the world. And 2020, God told me, it's funny, God knew this pandemic was coming because I wasn't going anywhere. So 2020, God was
but you won.
Well, no, yes, it's true. Yes, I am currently, on top of everything, I'm the USA representative for Man of the World. So thank God. God told me, and I always heard this quote and it always slapped me up a little bit because I've been to Guatemala and I've worked with orphanages and I've done stuff and I helped feed children across the world through this organization. I didn't get to go, but I would fundraise for that. I started realizing the need within my own city, within South Florida, you know, and it goes back to this quote that I always use, that people are always looking outside of themselves to solve problems instead of within. So mankind and scientists know more about stars and outer space than they do about the own ocean that is right here on this earth. And a lot of times we want to help the world, but we got to start with our city. And I would see that, like, people say, oh, you want to preach to another country, you got to start with your town. So I started doing more projects within my city. I started helping with the homeless people, thanks to the Miami Give Back. What? Miami Give Back.
What? Love that.
Yes, that's actually how you and I met.
Yeah.
And you know, you meet someone cool when you're meeting them as you're serving food to homeless people. Like, it
absolutely.
doesn't get, it doesn't get any. I was just
Yeah.
telling somebody about the people you meet and the places you shouldn't be is
Serving.
because you're putting. But when you're in your purpose, like, it's always been a desire. And the funny thing is, I had fed homeless people a long time ago when I was like a teenager, and I did it once with church, and it's a blur. I did it like as a kid, and I took the cans, and I didn't see it the same way. Then I became an adult, and I went through life, and I just went through a lot of things. I went through a financial crisis. So I realized, like, and it's funny because the Bible, Proverbs chapter 29, it says there is no difference between the poor and the rich. Both of their eyes were made from God. Both of them are creations of God. It says it multiple times. And then it also says you ignore the cry of the needy, you will be ignored. So that always slaps me up because I'm like, okay, what do I have? I have influence in my city. So, and not just going to go out there and serve, I'm going to bring awareness to the serving. And it's been a blessing. The last project we did for Miami Give Back Homeless, my church, I connected everything. I was like, my church is going to be a Kendall drop-off. And we have this room called the Love Room because it says a place called love. I have photos. It was filled with clothes for homeless people. People came from different parts of town to drop off stuff for homeless people. And it was beautiful to see that. And I just realized, okay, God, I see why you have me on Instagram. I mean, it's cool to get like the engagement and to travel, but this is so important. And I feel like the influencers in our city they're not doing it. So what's cool is when people follow my page, it creates more of a role model perspective. Like, you see everything I do, and I'm extremely busy, but I still have time for service. I pray that is what you aim for more than anything, more than the physique and the knowledge and like, go for that, because that is my break in the middle of the week. Because I run my own business. I'm working on 3 different projects, and it's like I have so much going on, but when I get to give back, it like fulfills my soul. Like yesterday's conversation, what we talked about, which we can't disclose because that's coming future. Stay tuned, y'all. Huge, awesome. That was like a dream come true because my heart has always been to help the wounded, and it's because I went through a wounded season. I just endured through a lot: physical, mental, verbal abuse from certain family members to school. I was called names. People would question my sexuality in like 2nd grade because they didn't know I was enduring abuse. So they would see me and I was really timid and I was awkward, and people would call me names all throughout life. People would call me weak. People would say that I'm girly. And I would always perceive myself with these images, and I never felt like a man, and I never saw, like, it was just always uncomfortable, and I felt like I couldn't fit in with the boys because people were trying to destroy me with their words. And it's not about the words that people say, it's about the words that you believe. And it's funny because as a mindset coach, I just recently created a group because I have an online gym, but I recently created an online mental gym where I make people do mental exercises to set themselves free of these things. And I'll share with you guys an assignment that I gave on there. Write out on a sheet of paper the names that people have called you in your life. Every single one of them, the hurtful ones, everything. Read it, because they came in different seasons of your life. They came at hurtful times, different times. Kindergarten, home, 3rd grade, previous relationship, it's come all, but we know the ones that hurt because your subconscious mind answers for you. Majority of our brain operates within the subconscious because our brain is lazy. And it's so easy to just keep old stored memories than to have a new identity come forth. And that's why it's hard for people to cause a transition, because it takes work. So when you write it out, you look at it, you read it, and then you destroy it. And your brain, and what I had people do is destroy it in water, so you get to watch it drown. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you put it underwater and you watch it.
I like that, actually.
if you burn it, it disintegrates in a second and you don't even realize what just took place. But when you're crumbling it and it's under a faucet and it's being destroyed, your brain is telling you, like, this is never who I was.
Right.
And the best way to explain it is, so many people wake up thinking and that they have to get strong. You hear that, oh, you got to become strong. It's that you were never weak. So it's not about becoming strong. It's about understanding you have strength.
Right.
So a lot of life is about that. It's about people. I had a revelation this week. It's funny how you asked me to do this week. You're getting all the good stuff here. People are like, it's awesome. Okay, so if you have a stomach ache, eating vegetables is not going to solve your problem.
Right.
So eating good words and affirmations is not going to solve your problem if you're still stuck in your gut with an identity that doesn't belong to you. And hearing an identity that does belong to you, all it does is cause you to have a battle between who you are and who you're not. So when you write out a list of I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm this, I'm that, that's fine. But if you still have those other ones that you're what you are not in there, it's not doing anything but putting a Band-Aid over an infection. And I feel like that's why transformations don't take place. But I feel like with what I just told you, if they take that to prisons, they take it to homeless shelters, they take it to different places, there would be a huge breakthrough, because people became a product of who they believed they were, which was never who they were. It was who other people said they were. And we live in a spiritual world, straight up. And if we don't understand that we live in a spiritual world, the words that were said to you, it wasn't even just them, it was what was in them, what was manifesting in them. What would cause somebody to say a hurtful thing? Usually when you're in a hurtful place, you say hurtful things. The same thing with, like, I don't really say bad words. And I'd have to be fuming and I'd probably say it in my head, but like, it doesn't come out of my, but it's also because I don't listen to certain music and I don't really, I don't allow that to just sit and store in me. So what we vomit out is usually what we're listening to. And then if I do listen to something like a movie or something and it had a lot of bad words, those words will come back to me a lot sooner. Yeah. And it's just about, because what are we listening to? We're learning from. So if we actually listen to these people who had an identity for us, maybe it wasn't destructive, but it just wasn't us and we took it. That is destructive because it's a distraction from who you are. And a lot of times people with the identities of trauma, the identity that came right after trauma and the one that people take, that ends up staying longer because it requires you to cope with the trauma and deal with the issue instead of just saying, okay, this is my next identity. And one thing I've been noticing that's very deep is the mirror concept. Whenever you feel like you're living so many secret lives, when you look at yourself in the mirror, who are you? And I feel like people don't ever ask themselves. People look at themselves in the mirror all the time, but when do they ask themselves, who am I? Who am I becoming? Where am I headed? And I know that the organization you work with has like kids in high school. And one of the best questions to ask yourself is like, who am I hanging out with? Are these people going to create businesses in the future? Like, are these people trying to go places? Because that's when you also have to ask yourself, like, will I create business in my future? Will I be able to go places? I'm gonna let you know, the amount of stuff that I came out of, I have every right to be a complete disaster. I have every right to just be caught up in everything that I was caught up in. I'm not gonna say that God didn't have a huge role in it, but God made me do work on myself, because I was strong with God, but I wasn't strong with purpose. And it wasn't until I had a moment where I made a vision board and had God that it created the whole effect. Right. Because I read it in Proverbs chapter 29. It says, without revelation, the people don't cast restraints. So you have like no boundaries without focus. And I've noticed that if I don't have and I'm going to give you a business analogy, the best way to do it. If I don't have a name to every hour of my day, then I might waste a little more time than I should. Yeah. So that's with your life. If you don't have a destination, you don't have somewhere where you're going, you're wasting a lot of time and you're not really going anywhere. Yeah. And that's one of the things with life. Like when you get that deeper understanding, hey, it's Cora. It's one of my clients. That is TD Jake's daughter. You know TD Jake's?
I don't, but I don't know like a lot of people. So
she's amazing. She's in Inspo. Awesome. So basically, getting a deeper understanding that when you have an understanding of who you are and where you want to go, you can grow from that. And the reason people get stuck and they can't do self-development is because they're trying to grow in a broken identity, someone who they never were. So when they try to be intelligent but they've always been told they were stupid.
Right.
No matter if they get an A on the exam, they still feel that they're stupid.
Right.
And then when they do get an F, because they have so much anxiety in their mind that they are stupid, that they're literally pressuring themselves to become stupid. Yeah. It's like if you're driving a car and you're just thinking you're going to crash the whole time. You're eventually going to crash because your hands are shaking on the wheel. That's the same thing. Like if children were told that they're foolish and that they'll never become anything, until they have a moment of truth that they were told that, and write it out on a sheet of paper and say, I was told this. Because when you write things down, you write it into time. The mind is all chemical form. Literally, it requires calorie, and then it's a chemical dependency, and everything is in chemical. But when you bring it out into a sheet of paper, you make the chemical into a solid. Think about that. It's like you're taking it through another transition. And why is it that like nothing means anything unless it's signed? Yeah. It's like your word means nothing until it's recorded or it's signed. So if they could play back the tape of what was said, and I know it's a very sensitive thing to do, but if you don't do it, then you don't get to the wound. It's like if you just stick to the surface of things, but you don't get to the organs and to the tissues, you're not solving the problem.
Right.
And I'm a holistic health coach, so I'm also a holistic mindset coach. When I have a client who tells me that they were over 400 pounds for 20 years, my question was like, why didn't you diet? I said, when did you give up on yourself? Those are different questions. It's not, oh my gosh, how dare you? No, it's like, what caused you to get to that place? What caused you to think that? Was there a moment when you just literally caught yourself eating because you have given up on yourself? So when you look at things from a holistic approach, it causes a way greater healing. And that's what God does. When God turns on the lights, he turns on the lights, and then you see what you're tripping over.
Yeah.
And majority of the roots that people have when it's all crazy, it's rejection and seeking acceptance. And through seeking acceptance, you have peer pressure, because you'll easily be influenced just to be invited. Mm-hmm. That's gonna, like, if you are in middle school or high school, write that down and read it for like the rest of your life, because you don't realize that. That is how you get peer pressured. You get influenced just because you want to continue being invited. And you know, they're like, oh, that's what the cool kids do. Peer pressure is not like, come on, everyone else is doing it. It's just everyone else is doing it. So you're like, come on, I got to do this.
Yeah.
It's not like the commercials that they show on TV where they're like, oh, everyone else is doing it. You got to know. It's just everyone else at the party or everyone else is here doing this. So it's justifiable. And then you start finding yourself. And we live in a spiritual world. So whatever demonic oppression you're going through is going to relate closer to that friend that is going through the same thing. And that's why sometimes we're like, oh, we're so alike, but you're in very chaotic situations or relationships, is because you're feeding each other's fruits, and it's all demonic roots. And when you understand we live in a spiritual world, however your theology is, there's light and there's darkness, and it's a battle for real estate, and your soul is part of that real estate. Because when you have influence like mine, it could be used to promote a lot of other stuff. I could very easily be using my platform to promote anything. Instead, I use it to promote light and freedom and breaking bondage and dealing with self. I can make it all about myself, but instead I make it about the person reading it. So that's a concept of real estate, the algorithm, everything. And when you have that perspective, you look at it, as they like to say, woke. Well, you look at it with the perspective of like, wow, this has nothing to do with me. And these things that I do were not actually me. These are rooted from my rejection because of how I felt as a kid, or the lack of nurture in my childhood, or the abusive nurture in my childhood. And then you go into that and you say, maybe I'm just seeking that acceptance because when my friends like me, I like me. Yeah. And it's mind-blowing because I've been through that. I've compromised, and I entangled myself in a lot of different things just because I was accepted, I was welcomed. Yeah. But now as an entrepreneur, I don't get invited anywhere, and I'm glad, because I got things to do. If I get invited, it's because I'm speaking on a live video, or I'm speaking at an event, or I got to travel somewhere, or I'm modeling for something. But I don't get, call it crazy, but I'd rather that, because time is limited. And if I have huge plans, anything I do, there's a reason. And people are like, oh, you're only business. Yes, because I am not where I want to be fully. So I want to go places. And this world is not how I want it to look. So it's not just me, but it's, so like when we have conversations about certain things, it's the fact that I realize that what I do can awaken other people, like me following purpose, people watch that. And people tell me, you're one of my most inspirational pages. And I was like, praise God, because that means that you'll clean up your life.
Yeah.
I don't go on here and say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I just say, this is my life and this is why. And sometimes I don't even justify why. I said, this is my life.
Yeah.
Because I do it in a way that foolish Brandon, 25 years old, lost his marbles, left the church. I left the church again. I left when I was 21. Sorry, my nose looks like some dust or something. I left the church when I was 18 because I wanted to be cool senior year. My buddies were drinking and I didn't really want to go to youth group anymore. So I left at 18. And then I went and I partied and I did everything I had to do. And then at 21, I hit rock bottom because the day before I went to church, I said I wanted to die. So then I go to church, but then I become a Bible thumper and I carry my Bible everywhere I go just so people know I'm a Christian. And then I hit rock bottom within that because that was not a healthy relationship. That was proving yourself to be transformed instead of just transforming. So the times that I needed to be reading my word, I was more focused on people seeing me read my word just so people can know that I was a transformed Christian. So then when I got all messed up in that funk, because I was so busy on other people accepting me or proving people about religion instead of becoming the relationship of God that people needed, then I got lost again and I got wild again. And then, but then what cleaned me up, it wasn't that I ran back to the church, it's that I started saying, what are you doing? Like I was working with a network marketing company and they asked you to make a vision board, and I made a vision board and I realized I have a wife on this vision board. Why am I why am I breaking hearts and doing all this when I have a wife on here? Like, am I going to carry all this into my marriage? Yeah. Like I started cleaning up. So I was like, why am I studying this? This isn't what I want to be. Like, why am I literally in this university studying this? This has nothing to do with my future. Why am I working at this place? Like it literally started shifting my entire life. And the funny thing is I wasn't praying. I was running from God. I was running from self. My friends would tell me, oh, you should maybe take a moment to be alone with yourself. And when I would make sure I wasn't sober to do that. And then it wouldn't work out because I wouldn't be thinking sober thoughts. So it's like you go through all this mess because you're running from purpose. And that's why you feel this discomfort. But it's funny because I have a client, he just had a baby. His wife just had a baby. And we went through his reports because I keep track, I do accountability coaching and I'm keeping track of everything they're saying. And I remember I was like, hey, 2 weeks ago, you said your wife was restless and it was affecting like you with trying to be able to sleep because, you know, you share a bed and if someone's restless, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
We realized his wife was restless because she was about to have a baby 3 days later, but we didn't see that until we look now and we're like, all you saw was wife was restless, wife was. So whenever your life is in complete shambles, that means birth pains of a transformation. Right. So when it's crazy and ratchet and wild and you're watching a video like this, this is the transformation call. And it's little things like that. I mean, one of my favorite sales mentors now was someone who spoke to me then, who was considered like a finance guru, but he spoke to me like a father figure, and I've never met him in my life. I'm just Grant Cardone. And he was saying stuff about like, if you're doing this, I'm gonna pass you. If you're slacking off in business, I'm gonna pass you. Like if you're eating crap and you're not sober and you're trying to do a business, I'm going to pass you. And I was like, whoa, that spoke to the side of me that wants to recreate a business. So it created vision, it created focus. If whoever watches this just realizes that they have places to go, they have people to see, a world to empower, influence to create, you start cleaning up your life. And when you start paying attention to who are your role models, my goal on social media is to become the role model to the person who wants to take care of their body, the person who wants to do work on themselves, the person who wants to have a strong relationship with God, person who wants to impact their city. That's the goal of the role model. And even when I took on the role of being a model again and being a mister, that was my main objective. And recently I was asked to be a mister and I almost turned it down because I was like, no. And then God told me, it's like, it's who's about to listen to you that's most important. And I was just like, because it's very stressful. And when you run a business, it's hard. But I do love people and I'm willing to make the sacrifice. Like right now, I'm willing to close off my schedule for who's got to hear this because I love people. And I love people because at one point I hated myself. That's why I have so much love for people, because I hated myself at one point. I wanted to die. I wanted to end my life. And I had to do such a healing of self to be able to love people. And people are like, oh, you're so nice. You're so nice. It's not because I'm naive. It's because I actually know so much that I am so nice, because I know different avenues of how demonic oppression can take place.
Yeah.
I know how you can get drawn out of a church. I know how influences can overcome you. I know how you could get caught within addictions. I know what it is to come from abuse and try to just clean yourself up and put a suit on and feel confident and still feel like a child being abused as you're trying to do a sale. Like, I know, and I felt it all. So when I come and I speak in a sense of influence and in a sense of mindset, I don't try to justify myself. I just am myself. And people, the more they want to know me, the more they find out about me. And that group I created, which I was letting you know I would love for your organization to have access to, because I talk about days that I didn't want to get off of my pillow. And I didn't want to get my head off of my pillow because I felt like a failure. And it wasn't the car accident. It wasn't failing classes. It wasn't the job, because I was all in the wrong place. I had the wrong car. I was paying way too much on that car. I was studying the wrong thing, and the job was just not for me anymore. But I still felt like a failure.
Yeah.
That was birth pains for the transformation of the entire platform you see today.
Right.
So when your life is in shambles, it's just a transformation taking place. It's just birth pains. But you could stay in those pains the same way the Egyptians stayed. I mean, the Israelites stayed with the Egyptian culture in the wilderness for 40 years when it could have been 14 days.
Yeah.
It still took a couple months to get it together because I was still running from God. And I'm going to tell you, God is the ultimate master of your masterpiece, because he designed you in your womb. In your mother's womb, you were designed with a purpose. And the only one that can draw you closer to that purpose is God. So when you run from God, you run from purpose. And if you have no purpose, you have no peace. And when people battle a lot of these like mental health issues like depression and anxiety, a lot of it is a lack of faith. It's a lack of understanding. It could be loneliness is a lack of faith in that God is going to provide the people, the friends, the partnership. It's a lack of understanding that. All those things, it's a disconnect from the divine. And in today's society, everybody wants to be so spiritual, but people don't want to add a name to the spiritual. They're like the universe and the this and the stars and the moon and the crystals. But what about God? What about the creator of the universe who created you? Who created you? Because if it's the universe, then your mom is your universe because you were all up in her Milky Way. But it's like, let's get it straight up. But when you give a name to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords and the God that is like ruler of heaven, and you make them your God, then you shatter even the demonic oppressions. And Hollywood is real quick to talk about demons, but nobody talks about the real way to cast out these demons. Well, turn the lights on, you cast out demons.
Yeah.
Darkness, it's real estate. Turn lights on in your life and all your demonic oppression will have to leave.
Yeah.
And how do you turn the lights off? You just start asking God, like, yo, why am I doing this? Why have I become this person? Why can't I take my head off of my pillow?
Yeah.
And God loves you so much that he will answer it right there and then.
Yeah.
He will say, well, you see this, you may think you have this issue, but it goes all the way back. And until you start to deal with that, you're still dealing with this.
Yeah.
Or you see this unforgiveness that you hold here, well, that is birthing this. You see that lack of wanting to have accountability. Lack of accountability leads to complete destruction as well. Your secrets lead to destruction. Because when people tell you to keep a secret, it's destructive. Yeah. When someone's trying to manipulate you, they tell you, keep this secret, keep this secret. It means something is not operating in integrity.
Yeah.
So all of that, God is a God of like being bold, being loud. And your purpose is loud, but you won't be loud until you do that brain dump of I was never weak. I was never worthless.
Yeah.
I was never really rejected. I am accepted. Because if I was rejected, I would have never been born.
Yeah.
If I had no purpose, there would be no purpose of me right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that even slices suicidal ideation. I worked in an emergency room. I worked in the pediatric section at times. I would see kids that were trying to overdose. I would see kids, when that show 13 Reasons Why came out, multiple kids were coming in with overdose. Nobody was talking about it, but it's because it was justifying suicidal ideation and no one wanted to talk about it. But that is also just a lack of understanding purpose.
Yeah.
If you know that you're awesome, you won't ruin your awesome life. Because you're like, yo, I'm awesome and I'm excited about tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be even more awesome.
Yeah.
And when you're excited to get your head off your pillow and you stop pressing snooze.
Yeah.
And then you're like, my ideas matter? Wow.
Yeah.
But until you do that necessary work of getting rid of that stomach ache, that detox, like I like to call it,
Yeah.
It's hard to just eat your vegetables with a stomach ache. Like, yeah, you get fiber and whatnot, but you got to do the intense work. Like, get the stuff out, make sure the stuff is out. And once you do, realize that it's out.
Yeah.
And the only way you welcome it back in, because things that happen to us during nurture of childhood, we have no control. But as an adult, we choose who we're listening to. As a kid, you have no choice.
Yeah.
As a kid, you take it and you go through it. But as an adult, if you don't heal from that, you will be a child in your environment. You will be tossed around the same way you were. And I was finding myself in that. I was finding myself tossed and tossed and tossed in different situations, different identities, the same way I was physically tossed in destructive home.
Right.
Begin to understand. Sorry, my AirPods died.
It's okay.
That's how you know you work too long. This happened twice today. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Well, I think, yeah, I happened and it was a little bit of but when you understand that you are a man or a woman and you strengthen that, you are not tossed around by other people's perception, like, oh, girl, you have to be a little more sexy for them to want you,
Right.
or for followers, or for you to get likes. But unless you, as a man, oh, you got to have all these women in order for you to be the man, and you got to aim, or you got to sleep with her soon because if not, she's going to leave you. Like, if this woman's going to leave me because I don't sleep with her, then she's the wrong woman. You see, like, we don't understand that we don't got to, like, jeopardize our morals for acceptance.
Yeah.
Says bad company corrupts good morals.
Yeah.
You right track, make sure you're not in the wrong company.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I would have seen this video when I was in high school. Where was this video?
Seriously.
Played in high school, like, because honestly, no one, you know, I feel sometimes it's because people don't do the work.
Yeah.
Not enough people talk about it because it just slaps you up a little bit. Like, you gotta, when it comes to speaking, and I've told people this, when I'm not motivated, I can't motivate.
Yeah.
It drains me. Like, I just feel like a hypocrite, and you'll see it in my face. But when I'm fired up, when I'm really out there, like, you can't stop me from what I'm about to say.
Right.
And this video, this whole thing, it happened at a perfect time because I just created that group. I just made those exercises this week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it's a sign that I want this group in your organization, especially his house, and they'll be able to access these videos however we set that up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of healing that takes place because of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And lack of vulnerability is what causes that lack of role model.
Yeah.
People understand your pain. And when I had a client recently that I told them different things that I battled, and they were like, wow, I went through that too, and no one ever really spoke to me that way. When people see that I am a cleaned up progress now, I don't have all the answers, but I've cleaned up my life, and I came from a very hot mess life, it encourages a little bit more. As opposed to the person who never did anything. I practice purity. I'm not saying I'm a virgin. There's a difference. So, like, when you could see that it's not like, oh, he doesn't even know. No, I know what's out there, but I choose to not be drawn by what's out there. I choose not to be drawn by things that stimulate me. I choose to have control of my body, over my emotions, over my hormones. And no one even talks about self-control, and no one talks about these things. But what happens when we do that is we tell ourselves these things are greater than us. I have a friend who talks from soda, and I said, who's stronger, you or soda? And at that moment, they were like, me. That's the same thing. Who's stronger, you or this lust that you're dealing with? Yeah. And when you keep that understanding, you're like, me. You're going to fall. You're going to get on your knees, but you're going to get up, but I'm stronger. Yeah. And it's because God has empowered us to be strong. It says, be strong and courageous. Yeah. And then it says you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. It means you've already strong, so he strengthens your strength. Right. Limits to what you could do as just a human. Right. But when superhuman abilities, because you're trusting in the divine God to be the one that is just firing you up through this entire process, there is no limit. Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. I also wish I would have heard this talk when I was in high school, because I also tried to kill myself many times. Sorry to like make it like on a sour note, but had gone through a lot of those experiences, and also went through like
a drinking phase and etc. And then it took time for me to find myself. So I think it's pretty interesting. I didn't know that about you. But I think that, no matter what happens, because of who God is, we always have a chance to change and to rebuild everything. And that's the best thing. That's the greatest gift that we have, is that we can always choose to rebuild and to remake ourselves. So I think on the last note, because I'm really actually interested in some of these exercises, because I saw a video of it and I was like, I think that's pretty cool. To close out, could you give one more exercise that you would recommend, if you're dealing with something, another sort of I don't know, a releasing exercise, to let go of negative energy or negative self-belief? Or
Got you. I did it this week. We started with anger, because we found out anger is an emotion based off of sub-emotions. You're angry because you're fearful. You're angry because you're dealing with a deeper root issue. Mm-hmm. So you could be angry because you're insecure, angry because you're fearful, or you're angry because you're disappointed. So there's different things that rage in anger. So I wrote out a list because I caught myself angry at times. I'm not a perfect human, God. I did not get angry. No, but I wrote out on paper, what am I pissed off about? But then on top of that, I said, what am I sad about? What am I, when you write a journal, you just write about your day. But sometimes in your day, you don't evaluate the emotion of why am I sad today? You just write, oh, today, diary, I'm sad today. Instead of going, I'm sad today because this person didn't answer my text message. But that bothered me because I dealt with rejection back in high school. And that bothered me because in my household I was rejected. Then you're like, whoa. So the best exercise to do is, what are the fruits you're bearing at this moment? Your best exercise is praying about where are the roots to these fruits coming from. Because whatever you're producing as an adult or a teenager, it came from deeper. And I feel you know how in the Bible it talks about 13 and then you're a man? Or 13? I really believe it. All the insecurities that come in high school were already instilled in kindergarten. Everything that's going to be there, it's not going to be new stuff. Yeah. So when we started dating, because I had okay, I'm going to put myself out there. I had a couple girlfriends in middle school. A couple in the same at one time.
Well.
And I was just trying to prove myself being a man. So in 6th grade, I was oh yeah, I got this girl, and then I broke up with her. And I was just trying to prove myself that I'm a man. And we don't realize that that's an insecurity that you got probably from kindergarten when people were calling you gay. So you have to get your understanding of what is going on and what. So right now you're dealing with an issue. You're a player. Oh, I always have to have a different girl because I feel that means that you lack a hug. You're missing your mother or your father's hug. You're missing that nurture. And maybe they lived in your house, but they didn't focus on you, or they were abusive with you, or they were never home. Whatever it is, that is a sign that you just need a hug. You just need a hug. And the hug is not going to come from a human. It's going to come from God. Because that nurture that you lack, no one will be able to. We don't understand the importance of parents. Because we see parents partnership all the time. The dad's missing or the mom's missing and whatnot. Obviously, if someone passes away, that's different. But when there's a divorce and the kids are split between that half and half, but the parents are not doing their role as parents, then what's caused... Hold on. Can you lower that for a second, please? I'm finishing this.
It won't be too much longer. Don't worry. This will be the last part.
Watching a dancing video, I'm oh,
wow.
Wow. So overall, the biggest focus is understanding that the role of the mother is the nurture and the role of the father is the identity. But at the same time, the identity that comes from the father and the acceptance that comes from the father is a form of nurture.
Yeah.
When someone speaks into you and says you are amazing and you are incredible at a young age, not when you already think you're a failure and you're a failure, then it doesn't matter because it's bouncing off of you. Instead of absorbing it, just reflecting it, because you believe you're a failure more than you believe that one time you hear you're amazing. But you will always remember when someone calls you amazing, because it's not something that it's foreign to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you avoid the people that are trying to help you the most because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you're deep rooted in certain things, it's really uncomfortable. So 1,000 different exercises. The best exercise is whatever emotion you're feeling that is negative, try to root it back and see where it's coming from. as deep as you can go, as far as you can. And then if you go into prayer, God will take you even further, you know? But asking yourself if you're willing to do the work to do it is a different story. When you're feeling sad, you feel depressed, and you don't want to get your head out of your bed because a toxic relationship situation just took place, ask yourself why you're in that toxic relationship to be. Not why did this person do this to my heart? Don't they respect me? Why do you allow the disrespect? Why have you gone this? You welcomed even this person into your presence. And you saw the red flags. You know how people are like, oh, the narcissist. The narcissist dates the codependent person. So feels they need the person, gets the person that eats them alive. And there's something in love, the word love, there's different forms of it. But there's eros, E-R-O-S, and it's about the snake eating itself. Well, when you have the unconditional loving person who is codependent, and it's unhealthy when you're unconditional loving to people who are abusing you. You have the person who's narcissistic, who's eating themselves alive. That's not love. None of you are love. And that's why whenever you're sad about something or the way someone treats you or the relationship you're in, that is a product of you not dealing with you. Yes, they hurt you, broke your heart. They're bad for that, but you're bad for putting up with it, being there to begin with. And you're producing rotten fruit that is just drawing this in. Because the more that you produce good fruit, you produce the animals that are going to eat the fruit from what you need in your purpose. If I'm out at a club and I'm trying to practice the purity and I'm constantly getting drunk at the club, I'm going to set myself up for failure. And just because everyone out there trying to look for something, go home with something, and it's like, I can't set myself up for success. But if I'm out at a club every weekend, then I got to ask myself, am I trying to be invited? Am I trying to be busy? Am I trying to look cool? Like, what am I doing? And I just got a business to build. I don't have time to be out here every single weekend. It's fine if it's a birthday and it's a celebration, but what are we celebrating when it's every Saturday, every Sunday? Like, I got things. I'm just making everybody else money, and I should be making money for myself. Like, we don't catch. But then the reason you even went to the club in the first place is the root of the fruit you're about to have people eat from.
Well, I know like you're having like your families there and stuff, so I'm like not gonna take any more of your time because I don't wanna, you know.
No, I mean, there's nothing better I could do with my time than to impart wisdom to this organization and to people who are going to be hearing this, because
you're awesome, Brandex. Thank you so much. But like, it sounds like your mom's having fun over there. You guys are like watching your dance videos or something.
I dance.
Your what?
I don't know. I just heard like Spanish music.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, I won't take more of your time. I'm so grateful that you were able to come on today and talk with us. I definitely want to see about implementing some of your routines, like some of your mindset stuff, because I think that it was really cool. And thank you just so much for being awesome and for everything that you do. And I appreciate that you were on here with us today.
Thank you.